Okay, guys, we'll get started. Just mute one second. Right, guys. Obviously, other than Steve, if you could mute your uh, cameras and or computer, should I say, at the minute, that'd be great, guys. Just so there's no background interference. Thanks, guys. Gups, thanks ever so much for joining us, mate. I know you've seen part of the program and familiar with kind of what we're doing and that. So thanks ever so much for coming on and speaking to our aspiring soccer players. Guys, we're really lucky that Steve obviously not only played at the highest level in England, but also now coaching at the highest level in America. So we're really lucky and really pleased to have you on. Thanks, mate. I think before we kind of go into Q&A and that, is it okay if we kind of, if I leave you just to give a kind of brief summary of your career and that kind of thing, and we'll kind of go into Q&As from there, if that's all right.
We'll see who's awake after that, shall we? No, I mean, listen, Laurie, I'm completely aware that any young player here won't have a clue who I am, because this reality, life moves on very quickly. I did play in the Premiership a long time ago, but time moves on now. Young lads here would be more interested in hearing what like modern day players like Sterling or just someone like that. So I am aware of that, and it's no problem. But just very briefly, as I said to you before we started this, actually, my journey to become a professional soccer player would actually probably be more worthwhile, more interesting to these young guys because they might better relate to it. But just to start it off, I got into the game very late. I became a professional soccer player around about 21, 22 at a team called Wycombe Wanderers, who were playing in the Championship now, which is incredible. But when I was there, they were a non-league team in the Vauxhall Conference, so that's part-time soccer. And we won the league, and we went into League Two. So that's a long way down the pyramid. But it was great because it meant I became a professional soccer player. And that year, we were professional soccer players. You can imagine, big group of us were part-time, all young lads. It was like 21 odd, and it was a dream come true. And then that year we ended up getting promoted again into League One via the playoffs, which was amazing. And then from there, I got signed by Newcastle United, who at the time were top of the Premiership. With some fantastic players, with people like Andy Cole, Peter Beardsley, but once again, half you want. And then from there, I was only there for 6 months. It was a massive jump, and I ended up going to a team called Port Vale, who were in the Championship, and spent a couple of years there and managed to get a big move to Leicester City, obviously, where I ran into Laurie. Had 5 fantastic years at Leicester City, where, Laurie would tell you it was really exciting time. Playing in a Premiership, as you can imagine, was something that I'd always wanted to do, and to manage to do it and play okay in it. And we did had some great games. We beat Man United away, we beat Liverpool away. Just Chelsea. So we're mixing it with the best of them. Won a couple of cup competitions at Wembley, which is incredible, and ended up playing for England off the back of it. So I became an international player, which was obviously awesome. From there, I got a move to Celtic, who in the Scottish Premiership, and then 2.5 years there, which once again didn't play as much as I would have liked, but still, you're playing in front of 60,000 people every home game. We got to a UEFA Cup final, won the league, and all these great things. And then from there, unfortunately, I started to get a bit older, and ended up playing. Had a spell at DC United, Leeds United, Stoke City. Just bounced around a little bit, and then my last playing. It was like playing half assistant role, was at a team called Rochester Rhinos, which was in the USL in America. So that's my soccer career in 5 minutes. And now you know.
Listen, well, thanks for that, mate. I think just so everybody on this call knows that I think it's actually a constant theme that everybody seems to kind of downplay. During this 5 minute spell of going through it, everybody has downplayed what they've done and that. And just to put it into context, when he says he did okay, he was one of the standout performers for Leicester. Obviously, picked for the England national team and got capped for the England national team, which is incredible. And not just anybody gets that. So just put that in a bit more context, then maybe gives himself some credit for in that short summary. I think to start with, mate, I know we spoke yesterday, and you had mentioned that about the different, how your journey was and that, and I think that kind of leads into the first question I had actually, which was that you started your career at a lower level. And you seem to make it very easy to make that transition. Was it as easy? Did you find it easy, or did you have to keep working?
Right. Okay. So now, all you young lads out there, if you're listening, I know you probably fell asleep when I was telling you about my career. Now listen to this, because this is important. Okay. So it's going to take a while to get through this. So let's start at the beginning. So I remember the first time I was ever really introduced to a football, I was around about, or a soccer ball, I was around about 5 years old. My dad, who was incredible influence throughout my whole life, was a goalkeeper. He played in goal for West Bromwich Albion. And he was absolutely desperate for me not to be a keeper. He wanted me to play out on field. Now, he played out on field with a player called Terry Payne. Now, Terry Payne also played for England, but that was back when my dad was young. So a long time ago. He was actually in the World Cup 1966 squad when England won the World Cup, the only time England have won it. This guy, Terry Payne, was in it. Now, he was a winger. And my dad used to marvel at how he used to beat players by dropping his shoulder, a bit of deception, going one way, going the other. And he marveled from in goal, watching this Terry Payne, and he wanted me to be like him. He thought this is amazing. So right from an early age of 5, 6 years old, what my dad had me doing was in the back garden, where a lot of parents would just, go in goal and their kids kick balls at them or pass or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what he used to get me to do was he used to get me to run at him, and I had to drop my shoulder and go past him. And we used to do that day in, day out, day in, day out. And he encouraged me to do it on my own, which thankfully I did. So he hammered right from an early age how important extra work was. Now, if I relied on a coach at your teams, the school teams you're at, or whatever teams, sure, they'll improve you. But really and truly, if you really want to try and find out how good you really be, you have to do the extra work. You have to become almost obsessed and do the extra work on your own or with your family in the back garden. If you're lucky enough to have a garden, then amazing. So that's how it started for me. I was in the back garden, dropping my shoulder every single day of the week. And incredibly, fast forward to when I'm 21, 22, I managed to make a career out of it, where I wasn't particularly quick. I wasn't slow, but I could beat a player with a little drop of the shoulder and cross a ball. And I managed to make a career out of that because I turned it into a real weapon. Now, where it gets interesting with me is that I had a massive problem with growth spurts. When I up till about, I don't know, 9, 10, 11, I was flying. Playing the best player in the team, well, one of the best players in the team, in the local clubs I was played at, scoring loads of goals, blah, blah, blah. Life was going great. Then I got to about 13 years old, and everyone shot up apart from me. So incredibly, I found myself, and it affected me. It affected my confidence. So I was basically, I went from just being the same size as everyone else to the smallest player on the pitch. And what that did is that players that I used to be able to beat, I no longer could because they were taller than me and faster, and I'd become slower because obviously everyone had got quicker because their legs had grown up. So that affected me. So from 13, so you think from when it was at 8 or 9 when I first started till 12, 13, I was one of the best players. From 13 till 16, I became one of the worst players. And I couldn't get in the school team. And trust me, we had an awful school team. So I couldn't get in it. And it affected me. It affected my confidence. And I think sometimes, you know, coaches and when they coach kids, everyone understands growth spurts, but and it's becoming more and more talked about. But in my day, it never was, and it really did affect my confidence. Now, the good thing I did do is I carried on practicing. So even though I wasn't playing in the school team, I wasn't doing well, I was feeling pretty miserable, it was affecting my confidence. I was still out dropping my shoulder because my dad had drummed it into me right from word go to drop my shoulder and you know, and beat people. So although I'd lost my pace, I was still perfecting the art, because this whole thing, I'm sure all you guys who are listening, maybe you got could do a step over, or as I call it, drop the shoulder. They're very good at beating players, but how many of you can beat a player and do that movement without thinking? You just do it. You just do it. Not many, because to do that, you have to do thousands and thousands of reps. And to me, when you become a player, when you can do that without thinking. And I say this to the pros I work with at Nashville every day. And we were out this morning, 9:30 this morning, down a local park with two young wingers that we've had at the club for about a year. And they're just doing repetitions. So everything my dad taught me, I'm now passing on and trying to obviously advance it as much as I can. But we were out there for an hour and a half today, just working on the art of 1v1s. And it'd be interesting to see where it takes them, because we've been doing that for ever since they arrived, and we do it with all the players. You know, I'm absolutely, you know, no apologies for that. So then we get to 16, and so I leave school. I've got no apprenticeship, no soccer club wants me. I was at Southampton at the age of 13, which was my hometown club. They got rid of me after 13 and a half. So I wasn't there that long. They just didn't see it in me. So at 16, I had no prospect of becoming a professional soccer player. I was still small. I was miserable, fed up. I gave up. I retired. I retired from soccer at the age of 16. And I tell you now, probably Laurie, you don't realise this, I did not kick a ball for 2 years. 2 years, from 16 to 18, I did not kick a ball. I mainly went fishing. I caught some big fish, but I didn't kick a ball. Which when you look at it, you know, when I came back, got back into it, it's quite bizarre, quite amazing, quite unique. So you know, it's nice to share this story. So you know, I can remember one of the reasons I did sort of call it a day. I was playing for my school team, and my school teacher, I was on the bench, I was sub, and my school teacher was talking to all the subs, saying, "Look, what are you going to do when you finish school? Where you going?" And as I just about opened my mouth to say, "Well, I want to be a soccer player," he goes, "Well, obviously, you know, you're not good enough to be soccer players. You know that, right?" And it crushed me. It crushed me, and that was just like the final nail in the coffin, really, of my career. So I give up. I give up for 2 years. But the good thing was two things. Firstly, all the years of practice I did from age 5 to 16 were in the bank. They were there. And also, secondly, it gave me a chance to just calm down a little bit. And I grew into this impressive specimen you see before you now. So I became fast again, and, you know, filled out a little bit, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, get to 18 years old, and my mates down in Southampton, where I'm from, started up a Sunday afternoon team, Division 7, Division 6, but as low as you can get, pub football. So park football for you guys. And I just started playing again, and fell in love with the game again. All those players that I couldn't get by when I was 13, 14, if they were rubbish enough to be playing at that poor standard, I now started to beat them again. And within that 1 year, I was back out training again. I was back out in the evenings. I remember there's like an AstroTurf pitch in the evenings. I wasn't, you know, I was playing one team, and I was going. There was AstroTurf with floodlights. I was working behind the floodlights on my own, just all the stuff that my dad taught me to do. I was back on it. And then within a short space of time, I was playing Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. So I was playing 3 games a week, all completely rubbish standard, but it was just getting the cogs going. And then the following season, I moved to a team called Coldham Common, which was Hampshire League Division 1. So you didn't get paid. The only thing was you didn't have to wash your own kit, and someone hung it up on a peg when you came in. So to me, it felt big time. There was still about, I don't know, 6 people come to watch. But it was amazing. And sometimes you need a bit of luck in this life, Laurie. And I think, when I think back, Coldham Common was a great team. Listen, we weren't that great. We were mid, down near the bottom in the Hampshire League One, but great bunch of lads. Really enjoyed it. Continued my falling back in love with the game. But as always, as I keep hammering home to these young lads, hopefully, I was working on a building site at the time. After work, down the park, practice on my own. Never had anyone to go with me. Always on my own. How many of you do that? Okay. So the turning point for me was halfway through the season, we played in a cup competition against a team called Bashley that only Laurie would have heard of. And they were a couple of leagues above us. A couple of things happened that night. Firstly, we played it under floodlights. It was a Tuesday night in the winter. I'd never played under floodlights before. So I was really excited about that. So I finished work on a building site. We got in the minibus and we went down to this game. And the second thing about that night was against a right back who was about 6'4". I remember he was a really big lad. But I liked playing against those big ones because I thought they turned slowly. So anyway, I was chomping at the bit. I was just so excited to be playing under floodlights. And things went well for me that night. I give the fullback a bit of a torturing. Listen, nothing amazing. Just drop my shoulder, cross. What I didn't know is that there was a lot of clubs watching him that night. So that's where my luck really fell into place. So they all came to the game ready to watch this lad. Because they had high hopes for him, and they all came away talking about me. And the next day, my phone rang about 20 times. Coventry City, Southampton were interested again, and then loads and loads of teams, and Exeter City and Wycombe Wanderers was one of them. So that was my journey that you kids maybe can relate to, regardless of whether you've heard of me or whatever. That doesn't matter. It was just a couple of things I really wanted to hammer home there. One, practice. If I hadn't practiced, I'd still be fishing. It wouldn't have happened. So practice. If I'd have relied on the coaches at my school team who told me I wasn't good enough, I'd be fishing. If I was working just with, the teams I was working with in the evenings, absolutely, really, really important. Absolutely is. But if you don't practice yourself, then you will never find out how good you can be. And to me, that would be a massive shame.
Definitely, mate. So I've written 7 or 8 questions before we get some of the lads, the boys and girls, to ask some questions, but all of them, without knowing that, is based around that. My kind of lasting memory of Leicester City. I was there 4 years, and honestly, one of the questions I've gotten is I used to see you every afternoon, still cones outside on that training field outside of just outside the training rooms, and just in and out of cones cross every day. And so I was going to ask you where that came from, and obviously you've answered that now, but I wondered what the rationale was behind it, and if it was the practice makes perfect, and where that had come from. So you've answered that anyway.
Well, I just like to add, what I did, and it's not all praise me. I'm just trying to pass this on, because I was out every afternoon working at my game at Port Vale, at Wycombe Wanderers, at Newcastle United, and at Leicester City. Not too many other players came out, not too many at all. And the reasons were simple. Firstly, because of my dad drummed it into me. But secondly, when I signed for Leicester City, it's a big deal going to the Premiership. So you always wonder, are you going to be good enough? I want to try and become as good as I can be. I've already said that. But what I didn't want any regrets. I didn't want to be that guy when I was 37, 38, whatever, sat in a pub thinking, oh, I wish I'd done that. If only I'd done that, maybe things would have been different. I just wanted to leave it all out there, so I practiced out of fear more than anything, because I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to go back on a building site. I desperately didn't want to do that. And the other thing that really, really helped me, and I was talking to the young players today at Nashville, was that I knew I'd be going, I don't know, the weekend, say, it's just bizarre. If I'm playing for Leicester, we're playing Chelsea, for argument's sake. There was a fullback called Ferrer who used to play for Barcelona. Now, when I was playing for my mate's Sunday morning or afternoon team, that time I was playing Sunday afternoon to it, he was walking out for Barcelona. Yeah, our careers collided, within 8-9 years. You know, it's amazing. But what I wanted to make sure that if I was out in the afternoon, I'd be thinking, Ferrer's not out. He's done his training, he's gone home. So now I'm thinking, when I come off the field, I think that's fantastic. I've gained an advantage of him. We haven't even kicked off yet. And so I'd be doing that. And then so I'd be, a lot of it, I was practicing crossing because, you know, that was the thing that really stood me in good stead. Like being able to beat a player is one thing, but you need an end result. So I would be working on crossing. I see too many crosses these days where, you know, the player hits the first defender. It drives me mad. You know, it's just through lack of practice. And I'm talking about Premiership now. I was watching the Premiership. I was watching Leicester City play yesterday. And one of the crosses, I can't remember who it was, hit the first defender. He didn't even look bothered. You know, to me, it was the end of the world when he hit the first defender. It was just like, what a missed opportunity. So that's the reasons why I did it. You know, I just wanted to make sure come Saturday, I walked out on the pitch and I'd look at my fullback and say, look, I think I'm fitter than you. I've definitely worked harder than you all week. You know, you're an absolutely talented player. I know that. And now I'm going to outwork you on the pitch. And all these things I needed in my mind to help me deal with playing in the English Premiership.
Perfect, man. And you know, as you said, you obviously went to Wycombe. When you made that step up, though, was it like I said, for me, it was really easy. It looked for you because you just looked like you played their whole career there. Did you struggle with that first of all? Did it just fall in place for you?
No, it was really difficult. Really difficult. It's quite funny, really. You know, and obviously I sort of glossed over my time at Newcastle. So I became a professional soccer player at Wycombe Wanderers. So, you know, we went from part-time to training every day. And then we went on this whirlwind in League Two where we just stormed it and got promoted into League One. But I'd still been a professional soccer player for 1 year at the age of 21 to 22. Most people would have left school and had 5 years as a pro. I'd had 1 year. And I found myself then at the top of the Premiership with Newcastle United. And it was too much for me. You know, I played one game against Man United. I actually played all right. But then it was sold within 6 months. You know, and that was a massive kick in the teeth, huge kick in the teeth, because you go from Newcastle United, which were one of the biggest teams in English football, to Port Vale, who I openly admit, I love Port Vale, but I openly admit I'd never heard of them. And I didn't even know what league they were in. When you know, the manager was Kevin King at the time, told me that he'd sold me to Port Vale, I was like, wow. So it was, but then ironically, I played for Port Vale in the Championship. I remember my first game against them was against Millwall. We won 2-1. I set them both up. Life was great. Then during the week, I went to Bolton Wanderers. We played Bolton Wanderers, and I got kicked off the park, played awfully. And I remember being in the bar after the game, crying to my dad that I wasn't good enough for the Championship. So I had to knuckle down, do the extra work, and all the rest of it. And then, you know, 2.5 years at Port Vale, managed to become one of the best players in the Championship, I guess. Got myself a move to Leicester. Second game for Leicester in the Premiership, away to Arsenal, and Patrick Vieira kicked me all over the park. Absolutely had a nightmare. Once again, I'm in the bar crying to my dad that I'm not good enough for the Premiership, but that's how it is. You know, soccer is a roller coaster ride, and that's how it was for me. And the only way I got through it was do the extra work. I signed for Celtic at 32, 33. My first game for Celtic was in the Champions League against Ajax in front of 60,000. I had the biggest nightmare you've ever seen. I know, I promise you, it all sounds great. Everyone said it must be fantastic playing in front of 60,000. It is, but only if you play well. And I didn't. And I had 60,000 people booing me. Can you imagine that? I didn't leave my hotel room for 3 days. But then I had to just get into it, get practice, and you know, pulled it around to a certain degree. So that's how my career went. You know, it was a roller coaster ride, as is everyone's career, but just the extra work and you know, and thankfully my dad installed it in me. Not everyone has that, but you know, it's you know, thank goodness he did, and that's how I survived.
So, I mean, that was literally one of my questions. What was going to be I always try and let our players know that talent's fantastic, of course it is, but without hard work, you know, it's irrelevant. And I think, your story there, and certainly my story, is exactly the same. That without hard work, I would never, there's no divine reason why I should have been a professional soccer player. It was just, everybody was better than me. Similar kind of stories with school experiences, things like that. So I can't reiterate enough to everybody on this call that, talent is one thing, but you've heard it there, and this is, Steve played international football, and that hard work was what got him to international football, not just his talent. That was obviously was a good player. But so one thing that we keep banging on about, guys, is you've got to keep working hard. I know we've got, some of us got training tomorrow. We've got to train the way that we play. Okay, so we've got to keep that intensity. We've got to keep that focus, keep working hard, and there's living proof here on this call of how far that can take you.
Well, I think it's interesting, Laurie. Sorry to butt in there, mate. Is it? I mean, obviously, look, these young lads. I can see the odd one or two on the screen here. They're here listening today. You can imagine it's like, oh, who? Steve who? Oh God. All right, but they're listening. Fair play to them. Maybe something will stick. Then they go, do you know what? Maybe I need to go out in the garden and practice. I should do 100 drop my shoulders left, 100 drop my shoulders right, 100 doubles. Double drop the shoulders. That's left and right combinations. Just do that every day. Now you think of it this way. If you did that, it takes you 10 minutes. You did that, that's 300 a day. You're in the thousands by the end of the week, tens of thousands in a month. Now, you know where I'm going with this. You just, and it's 10 minutes of your life, 10 minutes. But it's incredible how much better you become at it, how much slicker, how much quicker it is. I mentor a couple of young players in England, and they do that every single day. And it's incredible. I mean, I started when they were like 8 or 9, and they're now 13, 14, and they're just unbelievable. They just glide. And one thing I do is I try and look and see the best players in world football. Best player I've seen live, the two best players I've seen live in the last few years is Mbappe and Lewandowski. Now, Mbappe is someone who just glides. It's amazing. You watch him live, how he moves, incredible. I always like to look at these, and it doesn't have to be just soccer. I like to look at these, best players, world stars, and just try and work out what they did as youngsters. What was it? And Aguero, striker for Man City, Mbappe, they both grew up with their house backed out onto a park. So you know what would have happened there, right? They'd have been there all the time, just kicking a ball. So my story is no different to anyone else's, really, who's these boys are another level, but just shows there is only way, one way. It's to, if you want to try and find out how good you can be, you've got to practice.
So your big thing, I guess, when you were playing Gups was, I used to watch you play all the time, week in, week out, was getting that space, whipping that cross in and that. So we have obviously got some wingers on this call. What, how did that come about? I know you've practiced it on the field and that, but, what were you aiming for? When you were trying to beat someone, was there a specific area? What was your thought? Did you worry more about the delivery? Did you worry about the forwards run? Did you not care about the forwards run? How did that kind of work for you?
No, it's interesting because, now we start going into the sort of like the coaching role, as, my mentality is coaching. I think there's a few things. If you're a wide player, you're out wide, and the central midfielder sees you and the ball comes out to you. So you've got the ball. The moment you got that ball under control, in 1 second, like that, you should know, and the brain's an incredible thing, you should know exactly what is going on around you. You should know the pitches. Now, maybe for young lads, that's a big ask. But I'm talking about when I'm playing for Leicester City, 26, 27, in my prime, I guess. The moment I got the ball, you'd see at the corner of your eye, you'd see a recovering defender. You'd be looking at him thinking, right, he's going at that pace. I've got a 1v1 here. He's going to be recovering. So if I go slowly, then he could be a problem. But at the minute, he's not a problem. In the box, I've got 2 players in the box against 2 defenders. Okay, so where's the space? The space is down the line, but the defender's showing me inside, because they always do, because there's a midfielder inside. Am I making sense, Laurie? Am I going too quick?
Yeah, that's fine.
So all these things go around in your brain when you receive the ball. So now I'm looking at thinking, if I come inside with the ball, I'm going to be running into trouble. I need to try and get down the line, because that's where the space is. But the defender knows that. He's showing me inside. So now I have to start working towards trying to move the defender with dropping the shoulder, moving the player. Now, once I've done that on a good day, if that's worked well, now I put the ball into the space. Now I need to get that crossing. I need that first defender. Practice in the afternoon, crossing the ball. So now I need to know, okay, there's a defender near post. I need to hit it to the far post. So because I've been practicing hundreds of crosses every day, you get a feel for it and you're just whipping it in over that first defender. Didn't always work, but it worked more than it would have done if I hadn't done the work. So that's it. You've got to see the pictures. And I've worked with plenty of players who are fantastic at beating players or doing tricks, but they don't see the pitches. If a defender shows them inside, they go inside and they go straight into a midfielder, and then the next touch is a pass. And I watch it all the time in the Premiership, the amount of defenders who show their wingers inside and the wingers just go. So you've got to see the pictures. And I just think, the better you become, the more you practice, the more opportunity you'll get. You're more comfortable on the ball. The more you'll lift your head up. The more you lift your head up, you'll see the pictures. You start making the correct decisions. 1v1s are great, but you need an end result.
Okay, mate. Just one kind of thing to finish on the playing side of things. What will you explain? Because even myself here, I'm interested in the story, and I was never good enough for this to happen. What was it like the day you got called up for the national team? What was the process? What was your thought? It was an incredibly proud moment, of course, but I'm just intrigued as a player playing the Premier League at the top of his game, what that experience is like.
Yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal. And I look back now as I'm older, and and it makes me proud, really, because my parents, it was such a big deal for my dad, and we'd come a long way together right from that early year. You imagine that I was out in the garden practicing, and he must have seen me really improving. He'd take me home and away. You kids out there, your parents, the sacrifice they go through to make sure you get to every game is incredible. And my dad was no different. So when I retired at 16 to 18, that must have been hard for him, And so, yeah, to get the call that I've been called up for England was, it was phenomenal. And when the game actually came round, so I'm training with England, we're playing Belgium, and I'm picked to start the game. And it's funny, I only told this story recently. So in England, you don't line up for the national anthems. You don't do that unless you get to a cup final or you play for your country. I know MLS, they do it every single game. You line up for the national anthem, but it doesn't happen in England. So it's a really big thing when it happens. So, one of the things of when you play for your country, is in your mind, you're going to walk out on the pitch, you're going to line up, and they're going to play their national anthem. So, and you almost think, as a kid, what would that be like? Bloody blah. So it came round. And my dad was in the crowd. And I remember as the national anthem started playing, I looked up into the crowd and I could see him. And he was looking at me and I was looking at him, and you thinking, oh no, we're going to start crying here. But we both started laughing. Because we just couldn't believe how it had come to this. From all those years of practice, and, must have been a right pain times when I was like 8 or 9, when it didn't go well and I'd run off crying and kick the ball in the bushes, that he had to go and get. All these things that are completely normal. And then through all the travel, all the up and down the country, and here we were, playing for England, and it was a moment that I shared with my dad, and it was amazing, really. But yeah, we started laughing.
That's lovely. It wasn't the answer I was expecting. With the starting laughing. Yeah. So you then obviously now transitioned into to coaching. Yep. What was that like, from playing to coaching?
It was. Well, I was lucky. I played till I was 39, so that's quite long, And I look back and think, okay, well, I had to make up for didn't start till I was 21. So, and I had those 2 years off, of course. So, I felt I was still pretty fresh, and moved around and ended up playing till I was 39. So, it wasn't like injury stopped early, and I had frustrations. I was kind of ready. I was ready to become a coach. And what I did do right from the word go, I was interested in position-specific coaching. And I openly admit that keep ball sessions, things like that, bore me to tears. You have to do them, I know, and they're good for players. I'm not saying they're not, but not for me. You know, it was all about position specific, namely the art of beating players. So what I did when I retired, I sat down and goes, okay, there's sometimes when I would take players on and it would be easy. I'd feel like it was going really well. I'd beat them easily. And then you play them again another, you know, a few weeks later, or months later, same player, and it'd be really difficult. I wouldn't be able to, you know, it'd be a real struggle. So I started to go back over video footage of myself playing and tried to work out what I did right, what I did wrong. And over that period of time, it was a real awakening where I started to come up with a bit of a 1v1 formula that I took into my coaching. And I took that to Rochester and really, to be honest, it's a labor of love. I study it all the time. You know, I spend my whole week studying people 1v1 to the point now where I can, rightly or wrongly, and I'll be honest, you know, if I'm watching Premiership, if a player starts running at the defender, I've got a good idea whether he's going to be successful or not just by the way he starts that off. His angle of approach is massive, and that's really what drives me on. You know, we do position specific warm-ups every day at Nashville. Before that, I was at Colorado in the MLS, and that's really where I got my big break in coaching as a full-time coach. Where I worked with Gary Smith, who's now at Nashville, and we took over an MLS team who finished bottom every year. And within 2 years, we won the MLS Cup, and it was an incredible journey. But what we did do, we worked on 1v1s every single day. And a lot of these players were starting at 26, 27. You know, you're not going to massively improve them, but you're looking for that one moment, that, you know, maybe that one little 1v1 that they wouldn't have done if we hadn't done the practice. So all the things I was telling you about, the repetitions, hundreds of repetitions, in a 15, 20-minute warm-up, rather than let the fitness coach run them through cones and over hurdles, we were doing repetitions. You know, you got to get warm, but we're doing the repetitions. And we do that in Nashville. I think we're the only team who does it. But yet, I look back to the Colorado game when we won the MLS Cup. We beat Dallas 2-1. Both goals came from 1v1s. You know, and you look back and go, you know, would they have done it if we hadn't done it? Maybe. But, you know, it drove me on, and I've been fortunate in my coaching to work for, you know, a number of Premiership teams, Championship, you know, Republic of Ireland, so international and MLS. So, but always, wherever I go, position-specific coaching is what drives me on.
Brilliant, man. And the last question from me, and I'm going to open it up to guys, if you get some, if the boys and girls can get some questions with you, that'd be fantastic. What are you looking now? You're obviously an MLS coach. What are you looking for in a player? So, you know, I'm trying to, you know, I know it's different things for different players and that, but what do you look for? And what the most important thing as a coach in MLS that you're looking for in players that you're looking to bring into the club?
Well, it's interesting. That's my night. Once we're finished here, that is my night. I'm watching college players because the college draft is next week. So we've had meetings all this last week and one tomorrow on what our potential draft picks are going to be. So when I look, you know, and bear in mind, I've been at Sunderland in a Premiership or Nottingham Forest in Championship, so I watch a lot of games. So when I go and watch players, I'm looking for weapons. I'm looking to see what players can do better than anyone else. So I know, of course, you know, it's important to be left, you know, both left and right footed, 2 foot. By the way, I was left footed. My right foot was awful, but that's another story. But I'm looking for weapons. Now, if you're a defender, you know, what do? Are you great at 1v1 defending? Are you dominant in the air? You know, if you're an attacker, can you beat a player? Can you create something yourself? Or are you just incredible at the air? You know, what have you got that's different to everyone else? It doesn't have to be one thing. In midfield, you could be an incredible athlete, but that's what I'm looking for. And I think that's what a lot of scouts, my mate, a scout for Arsenal, been a scout for Arsenal over 10 years. And so when I'm back home, he goes all over France and Belgium. Sometimes I go with him. And it's incredible how much detail they go into it. You know, they do, you know, a real big summary of everything these players can do, but they're looking for weapons. So the reason I say that is if we got a player here who's got a, you know, an incredible left foot shot, say, then work at it. You know, don't just say, oh, okay, my left foot's really good, I need to get my right foot better. Of course you do. But don't forget that that's your weapon. So really work at that, because trust me, scouts like myself, we're looking for weapons. What can you do that's better than everyone else?
Perfect. I'm going to pick on someone for the first question, but for those after that, put your hand up on the screen. I think there's a little something on there where you can will show up. But I'm going to start with a winger, Mr. Max Cornell. Can you turn your sound on for a second, please? You're a winger, so I'm expecting a good, hot, very good question from you. Okay.
I don't really. I'll think about one. I've been thinking about one and I can't find one. You've said a lot of mine, so.
Let me ask you a question then, Max. Take the pressure off you. So what are your strengths as a winger?
Speed.
Okay. So how do you beat a player? Do you just push it past them? Or have you got a trick as well?
I'll usually do like a inside outside or something simple, and then or like dip of the shoulder.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So what about what I was talking about? Maybe, I mean, I never was gifted enough to have that speed that you clearly have. So you've got a head start on me. But what about trying to drop your shoulder and work in the garden 100 times a day? Do you think you got that in your locker?
Yeah, I practice outside.
Good lad. Good lad. Good lad.
Next question's on Jack. I'm coming to you in a second. Next question. Well, actually, it's a statement from Conrad and Ashton. It's probably your friend's a Arsenal scout. He said, except for Arsenal can't find weapons.
Well, no, that's a very good point. But funny enough, he actually lost his job in the last 6 months because Arsenal have got rid of all their scouts and they just use agents. So good luck with that. He's now working for Monaco. So onwards and upwards, that's what I say.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it? Not bad move to Monaco. Anthony has put, as a kid, when do you stop working on your overall game and start working on your strength? Your position versus skill, I guess, is what he's asking here.
Well, I don't think you ever stop working at, your. It's funny. I had this conversation today with these two young Nashville players. I'm saying, because they were saying we're out there working pre-season, so we're out of season. So most players will be down running around a park with their headphones on, thinking that they're doing extra and they're doing themselves proud. Well, we weren't doing that. You need that base, of course. We were doing everything with the ball. We just did loads of 1v1s for an hour and a half. Trust me, they were shattered by the end of it. And they were saying, how many players do they think in the MLS right now would be doing extra work, had a program set up and all the rest of it? And Dax McCarthy, who's one of our captain, he reckoned there would be about 15%. So only 15 would have a structured pre-season planned. But the amount of players who would be out there with a ball, I think would be closer to 1%. And you think about that, Laurie, how amazing is that? 1%. And I said, if we had a golf day, which all clubs do, I guarantee before we played the golf, all the players would rush down to the golf range and hit balls. Yet your soccer players, and you rush to the gym to do a load of weights and all the rest of it, and you forget about the ball. Now, I understand that life's changed now, that you've got sports science and strength and conditioning is very important, and never really had it in my day. But obviously, I now as a coach, you have to embrace it. I understand it, but it's very different for young players because growth spurts, bodies developing. I'm not an expert on that. All I do know is I've got a very good mate. He's in his 70s. He's someone who is almost like mentored me over the last 20 years, and he's wrote a number of books on movement in kids, and it fascinates me because we got together and came to the conclusion that the 1v1 stuff I like and the movement that he liked, it was just so many similarities. They just went together like that, So we worked together, ever since that. There's a guy called Mick Critchell. So if there's any parents out there, just look up for Mick Critchell for his books on movement. Very clever guy. So, I would like to say, at what point do you start doing strength work, conditioning? You all need that, at certain, he's at certain ages. I'll give you an example. At certain ages, he believes that, you get to a certain age, that's when you should be working on sprint training. Before that, you know, your body's still developing and you're not going to get anywhere. But when you just get that, if you get that timing right, then you work on sprint training, then you've got a chance to become a lot quicker. I've got a feeling it's something I want to say between 14 odd years old, something like that. But there's all these things that, you know, you need to look into at the right ages. And if you get it wrong, you can actually, you know, hurt the player's development. So, you know, I really can't answer too much on that. All I know is that ball work you can do from day one to the day you retire. And if you do that, you won't go far wrong.
Brilliant. Max, I've got one more question for you, Max. Dax McCarthy, captain of Nashville. Where's he from? Which club do you play for? Which club do you play for?
I don't even know that.
No, which club do you play for? You must
Oh,
know
do
that.
I play for Winter Park FC.
Exactly. Dax McCarthy's from Winter Park.
Really?
Yeah,
Is that right?
He is indeed.
What?
Jack, I think you've got a question. You've been waiting patiently, mate. You've got to unmute yourself, buddy. Sorry.
Did you play any other positions besides winger?
Jack, good evening. I've been seeing you all on the screen, bouncing around all evening. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks. Any other positions? Not really. Maybe more left midfield when I was your age, but I really liked playing on the wing because I didn't like getting kicked and I couldn't head the ball. So I got out on the wing. I seemed to get out of trouble. So I wasn't like Laurie, straight down the middle, brave and could hold it up. I wasn't like that at all. So honestly, I think it's great that players these days, you know, young lads like yourself, try different positions. Absolutely. But I was always destined to be a winger. That's where I loved it. But I will say this, when I moved to Leicester City, they converted me to a wing back. So do you know what that is?
It's like the winger, but closer to the defense.
That's right. So you're at the whole side. You're just up and down. So you're a fullback and a winger all rolled into one. It's called a wing back. So you have three centre halves. And I was surprised. I didn't think I'd be able to do it because defending was not my bag. I wasn't very good at defending. Although I worked hard, I would run up and down. I wouldn't be, you know, jogging around if we lost the ball. I would try and blind everyone with energy to get through it. But to your answer, no, not really. I was always mainly a winger.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Got a question from Octavio. It's quite an interesting one, actually. Not one that we've had before. Does talking on the field make you stand out to scouts, or can you be a quiet player and still get noticed?
Great question. I think it will help you. And there's a number of reasons why. And one thing we've all noticed, and I've played with, as a coach, I've played with, worked with some fantastic people. Martin O'Neill, you might not have heard of, but fantastic manager. Roy Keane, you know, fantastic coach who's on Sky all the time. He used to be captain of Man United. And one thing we've all noticed, having worked in the Premiership, Championship, Republic of Ireland, is that players these days are very quiet. No one talks. No one gives each other rollickings. It's really quiet on the pitch. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think as coaches, it's our fault. Because if you go in any academy, and I'm talking about England now, it's probably the same in the US. In fact, I know it's the same in the US because both my kids play teams here, not academies, but they play local teams. The number one voice on the pitch, around the pitch, is the coach. He's talking, he's organising. I mean, my son is 8 and his coach is actually on the pitch running around, telling players to go this, go that. And I get why they do it, because they're trying desperately to help you young guys improve. But what they're doing in their efforts to help you, they're doing all your thinking and talking for you. So you don't actually have to talk from a young age, because us coaches are doing it for you. And they're doing it because they're trying desperately to help you, but they're not. And we're seeing this as now we get players become, you know, professional soccer players, adults, and we run into them and they're so quiet. So I think if you were out on a pitch, you know, communicating, encouraging, you know, to making sense and man on and encouraging people. If someone made a mistake, saying unlucky, do the next one. I think you would stand out. Absolutely. And one last thing on talking is that I used to find it helped keep me engaged in a game. So there'd be times when you haven't had the ball for a while, especially as a winger, and you weren't involved, and sometimes your mind can wander. And when your mind starts wandering, sometimes you miss moments. If I carried on talking and talking to my defense, whoever was around me, yeah, I'm open, don't forget, just talking. I found that it helped keep me engaged in the game, which really, really helped me.
Perfect. Thanks, mate. I think Issa has got a question. If you want to unmute yourself, buddy.
At what age did winning start to matter? Because this weekend I played a tournament and I knew I was better than the kids I played against, and I really wanted to win them, but they won.
Okay. Well, where do I start with this? It's of course it's nice to win. It's nice to win, but the important thing is that you get better. You get better, and you do that obviously, in a number of different ways. So if you felt you were the best player, you should have done, you should have won the game because you're the best player, then you are winning because you are the best player. So that means you're doing something right. And another coaching thing I do to these couple of young players I mentor, because it's exactly the same. They're at their academy teams and they're fed up when they don't win a game. And I tell them names of players that when I was 15 were the best players, and names that they would never have heard of because they didn't become professional soccer players or they didn't really do much in the game. And, and that's because they didn't practice and then they didn't try, as they just lost their way for whatever reason. So the point is that when it really matters is when you're 18, 19, 20, and you're playing for college or in a team. They're the times when you remember most. At your age, of course, it's important to win and you want to win and all those things, but it's more important to make sure that you're improving. If you can sit down every year on year and go, yeah, I've got better, I'm better at that. And like you said today, you said you were, you potentially were the best player on the pitch, then to me, you're winning.
Great question, Lisa. Great question.
It was.
Ronan, who can't be here today, he got a concussion earlier. He wants to ask, what stadium had the best atmosphere for games?
Wow. Well, I mean, the best atmosphere I've ever played in. I'm I guess playing at Wembley in a cup final. I don't know, 70, 80,000. Because it's a cup final, everyone's doubly excited, and they're amazing experience, amazing. Now, it probably won't register with the young guys, but it will with Laurie. Is it the old Wembley Stadium? If you ever heard of that, when we were young kids, the big thing about when you played at a cup final is you walk out the dressing room and you walk up the tunnel. It was a bit of a slope one. And you walk up the tunnel onto the pitch, and the TV cameras are always there. And we grew up on that, watching the FA Cup final every year. And I always wondered what it would be like to walk out of that tunnel at Wembley. And I got to find out. And it was one of those few things in life. It was every bit as good as I hoped it would be. You walk out of the tunnel, and the crowd, they see you for the first time, and you see the flags waving, but you don't really hear them. The crowd, it takes a split second for the noise to hit you. Then it always leaves you with goosebumps on the back of your neck, and phenomenal experience. But for just pure, I guess, volume of noise, is playing for Celtic in an Old Firm derby. And does anyone know what an Old Firm derby is? That would be a question, or in case it's a Glasgow Celtic against Glasgow Rangers. So there's a big rivalry, massive rivalry, and that was one occasion where I played in a few of those games. And if I was 5 foot away from you, I was trying to talk to you, you're trying to talk to me, I couldn't hear you, and vice versa. It was incredible experience. So that's what life's about, experiencing things like that.
And it's funny you say that, because I went to watch one just as a fan, a few years ago because everybody said how good it was, and it's the best atmosphere I've ever been to in the stand as well. So it's incredible, isn't it?
Oh, it's incredible. You wouldn't want to lose one. Trust me, Laurie. But hold on, Max. Max is back in the room. He's got a question. I'm dying to hear what this is, Max. Hit me with it.
So, like, how do you feel about before and after game stretches? Like, which ones are the best?
So, sorry, what do you mean?
Like, did you stretch before and after games?
Stretching. Are you on about preparing?
Yeah.
Yeah, got you. I don't know about stretching a run of games. Right, I got you. Yeah, I think what was really helped me is routine. I think I'm a creature of habit, and I used to start a routine. Bear in mind, I'm going to go a little bit deep now, which may not be right for you guys, but as you get older, you may get into it. So I used to get into a routine where eating, obviously. Sorry, let me start again. Sleeping, I'd have to make sure I had a good night's sleep. So I'd go to bed. If I'm playing the next day, I'm in bed for 8, 9 o'clock for sure, because you need a good night's sleep. Well, then when I wake up, food and drink, really important, and it's really important every day. But, the day before and the day of, really important. So I want to make sure I'm eating something that's not too heavy, but something that's going to, help me and good for me. And I'm drinking loads of water. So I take that off the list. Then I'd move into, how would you put it? Visualization. So these days you guys have little videos of you playing, and all the rest of it. Great. But I'd start that visualization of how I want the game to go, how I'm going to play well. Now, I didn't used to think, well, I pick the ball up, I'm going to run rings around everyone, I'm going to hit it in the top corner. I never used to think like that because I get too excited. But I used to go, okay, I'm going to make sure I outwork my opponent today. I'm going to be up and down. I get a chance. I'm going to be calm under pressure. And I'm going to, for me, was to try and beat a player. So I used to visualize that. So I'd spend some time, Max, doing that. And then, of course, during the course of the day, I used to, start a little bit of stretching and a bit of a walk and prepare. It's a big thing. And of course, when I get to the stadium or get to the pitch, of course, you're having a little knock around, but yeah, I would stretch all in that build up, and then you're building all the way up to kick off, and then you're up and running. I do think that at a young age, stretching becomes more important as you get older. It just does. But yeah, I think those things, preparation during the day, building up to that, is a percent that you can gain on someone else. That if you don't do it, you'll miss out on. So think about that. Think about your sleep, food, visualization, preparation, and you'll be fine, Max.
Thanks, Max. Right, guys, we'll just have a couple more if that's all right, and then I'm conscious of your time and
no problem.
Games you've got to watch this evening. Cooper, we'll come to you, please, buddy, if you can unmute yourself.
I was going to ask, what are the best ways to be noticed and recruited for the higher level teams or college?
Okay, Cooper. Well, it just really, it's funny because I get letters all the time, emails from people wanting to come on trial at Nashville, wanting to do this, wanting to do that. And the honest truth is I wouldn't worry about it. I get back to what I said. You practice. Everyone wants to be this, wants to be that, but the reality is what you should be trying to concentrate on, Cooper, is trying to become as good as you can be, mate. How good can you be? And wherever that takes you is just fantastic because you've done everything you could. So that's what you should be. When we're worrying about, listen, don't fall into the trap I did. Remember when I was telling you, if you're still awake, I was telling you about, I didn't get an apprenticeship at Southampton when I was 16, and it crushed me, and so when you think I've got to have this, I've got to have that, and it doesn't happen, that can hurt, and you don't want that. So you just want to concentrate on practice, and think to yourself every year, am I getting better? Yes, I am. This is fantastic. And then you keep doing it and you try and become as good as you can be. Now, if that good as you can be means that I'm going to be picking up the phone, ringing you up and saying, Cooper, come on, get yourself to Nashville, then absolutely fantastic. But I wouldn't worry about it. I'd concentrate on trying to become as good as you can be, because if you do, then you will shine, and people like me and, or, you know, scouts all over, they'll come to you, mate. Don't you worry about that.
Great. Thanks, pal. Thanks, Cooper. Asher and Jay have both got a similar kind of question. The first one is, what was your mindset if you lost the game? And the second was it hard to stay in control of your emotions when losing a big match?
Yes, and yeah, absolutely. I was terrible. I know everyone says it. I hate losing. You know, I hate this, I hate that. And who likes losing? You know, I think it's a crazy thing to say. You know, but people always try and say, and I've seen countless interviews where everyone says, "Oh, I'm terrible. Don't want to lose. Don't want to lose." Everyone's the same. No one likes losing. I was bad. If I lost and played badly, so I felt I played badly, I would really, really get down on myself. And especially at these young ages, I was terrible. You know, I'd be upset. I wouldn't talk to anyone for like 2 or 3 days. And I look back now and I say, what a waste of energy and time. You know, and of course, no one likes losing. But the honest truth is what you're going to do about it that matters. So how you bounce back. And, you know, I'm like a stuck record, Laurie. You know that? It's, you know, don't worry about the losses. You know, go into the game, prepare, give it everything you got. If you do that and you lose, so be it. You know, you can't win every game. You know, I played, let's say, for Leicester City. We got to a cup final. We played Tottenham Hotspur in the League Cup final. So it was one of the biggest games of my life, probably biggest game of my life to date. We lost in the last minute, 1-0. They scored in the last minute. The next day, I was 30 years old. It was my birthday. 30 years old. And honestly, even at 30, and you know, which obviously you kids aren't going to worry about it, but that 30, you leave your 20s in the 30s is not nice. Trust me, you'll know one day. It was horrible. So to lose that cup final and to become 30, honestly, I thought it was all over for me. So yeah, I was terrible. And I look back and I think, what a mistake. Of course, be upset that it's only natural, but roll your sleeves up, bounce back, work harder, then things will work out, I'm sure.
Thanks, mate. Jordan, you've been really patient. If you would unmute yourself, mate.
Yeah, so I was just at a soccer camp in Naples, and I was just wondering how you dealt with being one of the smaller kids in the game.
Yeah, well, I get back to how I was from 13 to 16. I became the smallest kid, and I dealt with it really poorly. Because here's the thing: Lionel Messi, 5'4", best player in the world, in my opinion. So it's not, size is not the be all and end all. That's the nice thing about soccer. When you look at most American sports, professional sports, you have to be a freak of nature to play it. But soccer, you don't. Some of the best players ever played the game are relatively small. Now, what does help is if you're quick. If you're quick, then, don't beat yourself up over being small, because it's not going to hold you back. Don't worry about it. But what you've got to try and think about, as always, is working at your game, improving, and think about what weapons you can bring. What weapons do you bring? So if you're not tall, then okay, you're not going to be great at set pieces. You're not going to be great at heading it potentially. So, all right, don't worry about that. What are you going to do? So Jordan, let me ask you this. What are your strengths in the game?
I'm a winger, and I'm really good at 1v1s and crossing the ball.
There you go. Absolutely fantastic. So being small, how does it stop you from crossing the ball?
It mainly just stops me from beating the defender to get into a position to cross the ball.
I got you. Yes, right. It's a great question, because I've experienced this myself, and also I've experienced it with one of the lads I mentor back in England. Exactly the same. There's one lad who's now 18, and he's just gone to college. He's got a scholarship, full college scholarship in Nashville way, Belmont University. Now we had the same thing. He was in a professional team in England, an academy team. Exactly the same thing happened. where he was very, very talented. Everyone shot up. And then all of a sudden he struggled to get past players because they're more powerful, their legs are longer, and he just couldn't get by them because he just didn't have the strength that these bigger guys had at that age. So what we did, we practiced and we stuck at it, because what happens is, Jordan, when you get older and you get to about 17, 18, which is exactly what's happened to this lad, your legs fill out. You may not get taller. I don't know. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But what you do, your legs will fill out. And then with that comes pace. That comes the pace. If you've got that bit of pace, you may lose it for these few years because everyone shoots up. Exactly the same happened to me, but it will come back. And if you've done the practice in between, then guess what? When that pace comes, it's going to give you such a lift, then there'll be no stopping you. So that's the thing, is just every dog has their day, as they say. So maybe lads now who are taller, who are stronger than you, it's getting harder to beat them because of that. It won't always be the same, but as long as you keep practicing.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Nina, do you want to unmute yourself? I think you've got one of the last questions.
How hard was it for you to stop playing soccer for 2 years?
Yeah, it was really difficult. I was just emotionally, I was crushed. My confidence was shot. I was a bit of a mess, to be honest. And I just had enough. And it's sad. I look back now and I think, oh, that's 2 years I wasted. But I don't know, but it was very difficult. It must have been hard for my parents, but I was miserable because I just let it all get to me. So, and I hope that by listening to this, you guys don't fall into the same trap. It's first and foremost, we play it to enjoy it. And I know I've had a few questions tonight about being spotted by scouts and all that, and I've spoke about it openly. But really, first and foremost, you've got to enjoy it. I forgot to enjoy it and pay the price, give up for 2 years. So enjoy it and enjoy getting better, and that's, if I was to say, I look back now over my whole playing career, and, obviously I've mentioned playing in 60,000, playing for England, blah, blah, blah. The thing I miss most is the feeling of getting better, the feeling of practicing on my own local park and getting better. And then knowing once I got in, was a freezing cold. I was out today with these lads, freezing cold. We got back indoors and went, do you know what? That was an hour and a half that we're really going to benefit from. Not now, maybe not this season, maybe next, who knows, but they'll benefit from that. I guarantee it. So, it was difficult not playing for 2 years, but I needed to, because I fell into the trap of not enjoying it and just taking it all too seriously. When look back now, I was a professional soccer player for nearly 20 years, so I shouldn't have worried so much.
That's fantastic, mate. Thank you. Very last question. We're going to have to come back to the main man again. Max, your mum must have typed this because the spelling's far too good. All right.
There's no stopping you now, Max.
Do you want to ask it, Max, or do you want me to read it?
I'll ask.
Go on then, buddy.
What do you suggest for eating the day before and the day of the game?
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, the day before, well, I'll go back and further, and I don't even know if this is right. I'm only telling you what I used to do. I'm not a nutritionist. We're actually hoping to get one at the club this year. I think it's really important. As is sleep, they're all, it's a percent. I used to always eat a steak 48 hours before a game because I heard it took 48 hours for a steak to break down. I'm not even sure I should be telling you this, but with a steak, what's the stuff in, Laurie, help me here. What's that stuff in a steak that's really good for you? Creatine.
Yeah.
Creatine. Mum, you got that? So steaks on a Thursday, okay, or whenever, 2 days before a game. But leading into day of a game, you got to be thinking balanced diet, really. I used to, you got to think something not too heavy, not too, so it's not heavy on your stomach. You're looking for, some stuff that's going to give you energy. I'm just trying to think what I used to have. I had a bit of cereal in the morning, and then I'd keep the fire stoked. So I'd eat fairly regularly, just chipping away at it. You know, don't let the fire go empty on the day of a game. I'd have scrambled egg on toast with, you know, a bit of bananas or so. You do that, do you? But I think, honestly, Max, I think this day and age, a nutritionist would probably even offer you better advice than what I've got for you. But one thing I will add is that I remember being at a club towards the end of my career, and they got a nutritionist in, and I was chatting with her, and she got me to keep a diary, and this might be an idea for you. So she kept a diary, or asked me to keep a diary of what I ate during the week, and then come match day, write down how much energy you had and how good you felt. Because if you felt great, full of running, no stopping your max, then there's a good chance what you ate during that week, and it's not just a day of the game, you need the whole week. There's a good chance of what you ate was good and your body liked it, repeat it. So for example, you know, when I was growing up, you know, everyone was like, you know, you had to eat chicken, spaghetti bolognese on a day of a game and blah, blah, blah. I actually found out with a bit of thought and keeping a diary that fish was good for me. My body liked fish. Don't know why. Maybe it's due to my surname. But they loved as a joke, by the way, Max. Just joking. But my body responded to eating fish. So I incorporated more fish in my diet, and I felt I got the benefit from that. So think about that. I think that's the best answer I could give you. Forget the creatine steak thing. Just keep a diary. Keep a diary of what you eat during the week. You don't have to go mad. And then see how you feel on match day. And if you're feeling rubbish, then don't eat so much McDonald's, Max. You know? He's looking at me going, what? I can't eat McDonald's.
Sorry, guys, I've got one more. Giselle's actually put a really good question at the end. Why did those words hit you so hard? And what was it that made you not try harder? You know, we always say try harder. What was the kind of final nail in the coffin for when you retired for those 2 years? What was the give up point?
Well, it was just a culmination of events. You know, bear in mind, you know, I'm 15, 16, you know, there's loads going on. Emotionally, I was very young, you know, very immature. I look back now and, you know, you want to talk to them and go, well, you know what, you know, calm down, don't worry. You just, you know, you haven't had your growth spurt yet, just chill. But it all became too much. And I listen, that school teacher who told me that I was not good enough to become a professional soccer player, I'd love to meet him. I've not met him. I'd love to meet him, because I don't know how you can write someone's life off at 15. Is just beyond me, you know. And I know he didn't mean anything by it. He didn't mean to be mean, but you know, it was just the final thing for me, you know, where it was just the way he said it. It was just so matter of fact. It was almost, well, obviously, you know, you're not good enough. And it was just maybe I was at breaking point, and that was my breaking point. But yeah, you know, I think it's a story worth telling because it's so unique, and you know, and don't let anyone tell you you're not good enough at, you know, at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, please. You know, that's just ridiculous. You know, but do be mindful of, it's not about trying to become a professional soccer player. It's about trying to become as good as you can be. And if you achieve that, then you've done all you can do.
All right, mate. That's fantastic. I mean, that was brilliant. You know, far more than I was anticipating. There's some great stories there. Guys, I think I'll speak on behalf of everyone, but thanks ever so much for your time, mate. We know that you've got a lot of college games to look at, so we appreciate all of that. And thanks ever so much, mate. Guys, we can take at least one thing from that, then you won't go far wrong. Thanks, Gups.
No problem.
And yeah.
Sorry, Laurie. Just stay off the PlayStation, kids. Stay off the PlayStation. Get out in the garden. PlayStation just gives you vision, straightforward vision. You need vision all around. You need to be out and about. So get out and do that.
I think the Xbox is better.
Then, did you?
Huh?
You didn't have confidence in saying
I think the Xbox is better.
I remember when I was playing at South, they just started bringing out FIFA, And I remember I was in the Celtic team on FIFA, and I always remember my stats on FIFA were actually better than I was as a player. So on the computer game, I was rated better than I actually was. So I was always quite pleased about that. But don't waste your time on it, lads. Honestly, guys and girls, don't waste your time on it. Get out and do it for real. Anyway, I better go.
Thanks, mate. All right. Have a good season, mate. I'll be in touch with you anyway. But thank you ever so much, Gups.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care, buddy.
See you,
Thank you.
Max. See you, mate.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
See
See
you
you
guys.
later. Bye-bye. See you, Laurie.
See you, mate. Thank you.
Bye-bye.